Let's talk about the Derby to start with. It's this weekend. A lot of people very much looking forward to it. Do you have some apprehension?
Yeah, of course we're apprehensive given the public and clear threats that Animal Rising have made to illegally disrupt. That's one of the reasons we went to the High Court to get an injunction against it on Friday, which we were successful in doing. It's a shame they've decided to go down this illegal route, given that Animal Rising have been offered, and indeed we're very pleased they've taken up the possibility of indeed a place at Epsom Racecourse to protest legally, which we are fully supportive of. So there's always apprehension, especially when you see stories like they're in the front page of a national newspaper this morning. But I think for us, it's a fantastic event. It's an iconic part of the British racing, indeed sporting calendar, in what is Britain's second biggest spectator sport. So we're really optimistic that we've got a fantastic couple of days ahead of us with something for everyone.
What are you planning to do, Claudia?
Well, we're going to be there because we care about these horses, and we think it's wrong that they are put in a position where they are exploited, where they are being whipped, where they have metal pieces put in their mouth that are uncomfortable to help control them. And when their lives are at risk, we know a horse dies every other day in British horse racing. And so we're going to be there to try and protect these horses.
By doing what?
Well, and to put a spotlight on our relationship with them, the way we treat animals.
Doing what?
Well, we will be having a demo at the front, which we're very grateful for that space. Thank you for that. And there are people who are willing to try and put their bodies on the line between animals and the harm's way.
What will happen if they do?
Well, we've seen, as I've already mentioned, it is legal to go on the track. It is illegal to disrupt any form of the day round the racecourse, round the parade ring. We have a robust, detailed security plan in place for just such possibilities. Surrey Police are obviously part of that. They've been very helpful to us. We hope nothing will happen. We hope things will pass off peacefully.
Are you prepared to break the law? Hold on.
Sorry.
Are you prepared to break the law?
Well, ultimately what this falls down to, again, is these animals and doing what's right for them and taking responsibility. And so I don't think this is any different to what most people would do, which is if they see an animal in harm's way.
Just answer the question. Are you prepared to break the law?
Well, would you smash a window if you saw a dog in a hot car?
Are you prepared to break the law?
I think I'm prepared to do what's necessary to do what's right by these animals and try and prevent them from being harmed.
Does that mean breaking the law?
If it means breaking the law, we know that law isn't always equal to morality, and we know that people have had to break laws throughout history to create the change that we need. And again, what this is about is protecting these animals. It's about trying to create the change that we need to see, where we don't see animals as property, where we don't see them as objects for our use, for our entertainment, and value them and care for them as the beings that they are.
What do you do if they break the law?
Well, that's for the police and the courts to decide, and the court is where we will end up, because there is an injunction in place. They will be in contempt of court, and therefore it is illegal. It will ultimately then be, as I say, for the police and courts to decide. All we can do is plan for what may or may not happen and have every contingency covered. But I'd just like to pick up on a few things that Claudia said there. Though this sport has never been safer for these horses. We love these equine athletes, these superstars who get fantastic care behind the scenes. 99.8% of horses come back from their races perfectly safe and sound. We've spent, as an industry, we've spent 40 million on welfare over the last 20 years. And actually, it's not really about horse welfare. Animal Rising are effectively using racing, which is a huge platform, as I say, Britain's second biggest spectator sport, over 100 days of terrestrial TV coverage. Animal Rising's cause goes way beyond racing. And indeed, Nathan McGovern, one of Claudia's colleagues, gave an interview to Lee Moddishead, who's a senior writer at the Racing Post this morning, in which he's basically said that it's actually not about animal welfare racing. This is about a much wider agenda that doesn't really allow the thoroughbred to exist and doesn't allow people even to have pets, Kay, as well.
Well, I don't think that's entirely representative of what we're doing. But
well, did he say that or not? And do you agree?
I think we can have positive relationships with animals.
I myself
have a dog and a cat, Nina and Callie, and I love them, and they're a really
I love dogs too.
Yeah, and they're a really important part of our families. And so I think we can absolutely continue to have these positive relationships.
But no thoroughbreds?
Well, I think
no thoroughbreds racing.
With any breeding industry where we are treating animals as property, where we are often jeopardising their welfare for the sake of profit, yes, we need to move away from that, and we need to find ways to love animals in ways that are in line with these values of loving them.
Are the Jockey Club risking the welfare of these horses?
No, I don't believe we are. These horses are born and bred to race, as you've correctly pointed out, Kay. Without racing, there is no breeding. Without breeding, there is no thoroughbred. I actually spoke to your colleague Neil Patterson about this a few weeks ago. And Animal Rising's agenda would lead to the extinction of the thoroughbred. So we have taken...
That's what they want to do.
Yeah, but what reasonable person wants to lead to the extinction of a certain breed of any animal? That just doesn't compute.
Let's ask her.
Well, so what we do is we breed thousands of these animals for the sake of using them. And I think what's really sad is that we can't imagine their existence for any other purpose than for us using them. And I do think we are putting their welfare at risk when we put them to race. We know that a horse dies every other race. We know that they are whipped.
Every
we know
other
that
day.
they...
That's not every other race.
Well, on average.
No, okay, no.
On average,
99.8% of horses come back perfectly safely in a sport that provides enjoyment to millions around the world and employment to 85,000 people in this country.
It's an industry statistic, and what I would say is that we have so many ways we can enjoy ourselves that don't involve an animal being whipped across a track. And I don't think it's an out there viewpoint to not want to exploit animals, to not want to bring them unnecessary suffering. And we can have these things. We can have positive relationships with animals that don't involve their exploitation.
Response?
It's not exploitation at all. These animals love what they
die,
do.
Though, don't they? I mean, how many died at the Grand National?
There were 3 deaths at the Grand National.
Yeah.
1 death for horse is one too many. We know that. That's why, as a sport, we've
Claudia's
taken...
point is, if those horses hadn't been at the Grand National, then they wouldn't have died.
Yeah, but the chances of any animal dying on a racetrack or at home, the chance of an animal dying at home is much, much lower than it is on higher, I should say, than it is on a racetrack. The fact is, they're at the safest when they're on a racetrack. Lucinda Russell herself, Grand National winning trainer now, double Grand National winning trainer, said this herself. When the horses are at home, it takes any care they need, takes much longer to come than when they're on a racetrack, but the vets are right there. Much safer on the track.
I don't think that's the fair point to make when these horses continue to die. When we see Hill 16 was the 50th horse to die so far that year. 20 horses have died in British horse racing alone in May, which is flat racing season, which is said to be the safest. And so when we are putting these animals in this situation for the sake of our entertainment, when we absolutely don't need to, how can we justify that if we say we love these horses as we say we do?
If we love these horses, we want them to exist, we want them to do what they love doing, we want them to race, and they race fantastically, and the risk rate, the fatality rate is infinitesimally low and getting lower all the time.
Let me just go back to the Derby before we finish. Claudia, if people are running onto the track when these horses are racing, isn't that putting them in danger?
Well, they're in danger when they're running, when they're being put in this situation.
If you run in front of them, are you not putting those horses at risk?
Their welfare, the welfare of the jockeys, the welfare of the people there is absolutely our priority, and we would not run in front of a live race. If these horses are spooked, then a question I have is why were fireworks set off before the Epsom Derby last year? Their welfare is the priority. What we're doing is to protect them, and to protect them essentially from an industry that does harm them and does exploit them.
I don't agree they exploit them at all. This is a fantastic industry that provides entertainment to millions, employment to thousands, and loves the thoroughbred and probably looks after its athletes better than any other sport.
Excellent discussion, guys. It's good to see you both. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate.